can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. I'm delighted to be joined by Elliot Grigg, which of course means we are in preview mode. But before we get into it, if you haven't done so already, please do hit that subscribe button to the channel. All of your boxing needs up and under one roof, with previews, reviews, final prediction videos, betting tip shows, big fight breakdowns, interviews with fighters, and so on and so forth. Everything we've got you covered. So please do check out the rest of the channel if you haven't done so already. But we are here for a preview for a rematch happening, an undisputed rematch now, as Oleksandr Usyk and Daniel Dubois clash for the second time at Wembley Stadium on Saturday, July 19th. Looking forward to this one, Elliot. Looking forward to dissecting the fight a little bit and talking a few various points over with you as well. But first and foremost, please give me your thoughts and your prediction for Usyk Dubois 2.
Yeah, thank you very much for that eloquent introduction, Paul, as always, and thank you very much for having me on. Obviously, I say having me on, we are a co-team, and thank you very much for welcoming me for here for this preview show as well. But I think this one, I like the fight, obviously. I like the fight. I feel like with Usyk, I almost feel like there's not many options really that can excite me around Usyk anymore. I think like he's kind of proven himself to the point of being, the kind of super champion elite fighter. That's almost like you look around the landscape now and think what challenges are out there. This to me really is probably the only one, bar kind of fantasy matchups where you might throw him in with someone like Wilder or someone huge like Jarrell Miller and just see what happens. But like someone of like a real sort of physical stature and just see what. But we would have said Cody probably before that Parker fight, just see what happens. But I feel like I'm excited for this fight. I think if Usyk gets this one done as well, you got to look at like the fact that he's beaten like British fighters, British world champions twice. It's not just the one-time thing. He's beating people twice. I think that kind of legacy his legacy should be probably secured already. But I think if it does, then he's had this kind of no argument. So I like it from that perspective. Prediction-wise, I'm gonna have to go Usyk. I can't go down into. But I think interesting looking at that first fight. I think the low blow was obviously a controversy. I can kind of see that one both ways. To be perfectly honest with you, even now, months after that fight took place, and I can still. I can still see it from Daniel Dubois' point of view. I can still see it from Usyk's point of view. So I don't think it was necessarily controversial as such, but I can kind of see why you'd have the viewpoint that it might be. So I like the rematch from that perspective. But I'm going to go with Usyk. I'm going to go. I might even go late stoppage again on this one. I think I really do. I think like Dubois' only chance really is going to be probably to catch Usyk cold. But I think it would just be another case of downloading the data and stopping him this time. But I think he could really stick it on Dubois. I think it was one of those ones again where you think, will Daniel Dubois want to take a sustained beating over 12 rounds when he's still young and there's still some massive fights out there for him? Doesn't necessarily want to quit, I suppose, obviously, and be seen to sort of do that. But I just got a feeling that Usyk might get him, to be honest with you, and get him out of there. So I'm actually going to go Usyk KO, but as we know, Usyk's not a one punch KO artist. So for me, it's going to be late rounds, 9 to 12. How about yourself?
Yeah, very interesting. Made some really good points there. Myself and Elliot Stott did the betting tip show for this. So if you haven't done so already, please do check that out on the channel as well. And that's exactly what I went with. I went for a late Usyk stoppage, second half of the fight. Much kind of around the same time as what happened to the first fight. Although I do think the fight will maybe play out a little differently. I just think, well, yeah, without being a complete banger, he's not a massive puncher, but like his precision, his footwork, his speed, his timing, his elusiveness will prove too difficult for Dubois, and I reckon Dubois will tire. Maybe around 5, 6 onwards, because I think his only chance is to stop Usyk early, as you said, kind of catch him cold. So I think he probably know that as well himself, knowing that he can't outbox Usyk, and he has to stop him. Therefore, I think he'll maybe gas a little bit. He's a big lad, Daniel Dubois, and yeah, I believe Alexander Usyk gets the job done again over Dubois, and defeats him via late stoppage in the second half of the fight, kind of around what you said. Maybe I go maybe around 8, 9, 10. That's where I'm kind of thinking. Which would be, I mean, if he does that, then he's beat what, Britain's three best heavyweights twice each. Fury twice, Joshua twice, Dubois twice. Like, I mean, that would be incredible. Like, fair play. Don't know what's next, but that kind of
Yeah.
leads me on to what I was going to ask you next, mate. Win or lose, I suppose if he loses, there might be a trilogy. But say he wins, like we're both predicting he does. Do you think Usyk should just like hang up the gloves almost and say, do you know what, lads, I've completed this game. There's nothing left for me to do in boxing. I've literally beaten everybody. There's nothing left here for me. Do you think he should retire, or do you still think there's some fights out there for him?
Very tough questions. I feel like his legacy's secured. So on the one hand, I feel like, yeah, you should retire. Like, I would hate to see him continue, and then eventually lose to someone that was not really on his level when he was in his prime. So in that respect, I think maybe. But I think it depends on what the next fight is. If he was to fight, say, Joseph Parker, I would have Usyk as a massive favourite in that fight. So if Turkey, etc., was willing to offer him a lot of money to do that, I would probably take that fight. I think he could do that even with a kind of 80% Usyk on the decline, with not the best camp, would still beat Joe Parker, frankly. The question for me really is whether they look at that Fury trilogy. I wouldn't fight Tyson Fury a third time. I really will. I just think there's almost like this odd sort of narrative around like Fury maybe like being robbed, etc., etc. And we've seen obviously the stuff happening when people like commentators at the top of the elite end of boxing that kind of would like to see, I think, money put behind Fury on winning that fight as well, and then obviously going into bigger super fights. So I wouldn't entertain that fight if I was him. I would retire before that happened and have two victories over Dubois, Fury, and Joshua. So for me, if he fights Parker, maybe depends on the opposition, but I think really he's got to be looking at maybe at max one after this, maybe, surely. I mean, two at push if you want one like in Poland or something. But I would personally just have this fight, maybe Joe Parker, and then call it a day. What about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends on money at the end of the day as well. Like, if he wins this and then he's like, right, here's another 50 million to fight, or here's another, I don't know, 25 million to fight Joseph Parker. Like, yeah, I think I can beat him, even though he's resurgent Parker. Like, I still back Usyk to beat him, as you said. Is he going to turn down? Oh, here's 100 million to fight Fury for a third time. Tough to say no, isn't it? Really. Um. So yeah, as much as I would say like he's got nothing left to prove, I think he probably should retire after Dubois just because legacy intact, retiring undefeated. He's nearly, he's 38 and almost 39. Like I don't want to get to a point where then he's fighting into his 40s and beginning to lose and lose, and then maybe his legacy is tarnished somewhat. I don't want that to happen. I'm not saying that I think that would happen, but if there's always a chance as you're edged towards your 40s. So I would personally I would like to see him maybe hang up the gloves, but like, I mean, uh, not as in we often say, oh, I should retire after a few bad losses. It's the opposite with Usyk. It's like, mate, you retire because you're genuinely unbeatable. Go and do whatever you want. Go and enjoy the rest of your life because you're one of the best that's ever lived, mate. Now, congratulations. See you later. That's kind of the thing that I have with Usyk. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised if either way, to be honest. But something tells me he will fight on. But so personally, I would maybe like to see him call it a day and ride off into sunset, top of the game. All I want is a yes or no. Well, a yes or no, and then a quick method of victory because we're running out of time. Within 30 seconds or less, Daniel Dubois, win or lose this against Usyk. Are you backing him to beat Anthony Joshua if they had a rematch?
No, I'm not backing Joshua to win either. I think it's still a bit of a 50-50 fight. Both men carry power. It's kind of a case of who wins, who lands first. I think I've probably backed Dubois slightly, but I think he might just be a bit fresher than AJ. But I still think if AJ catches him clean, that's the end of Daniel Dubois as well. So yeah, I think I'll go Dubois KO, but again, that fight's not seeing beyond sort of 6, 7 rounds.
Yeah, I think it would end in stoppage again. I think depends on the mental scar tissue of AJ. From that first fight. You know me, mate. I'm not sitting here and ever saying that Anthony Joshua is going to lose a fight, am I? Come on, it just wouldn't be in my nature. So I'm going to go with AJ to get the job done in a rematch if it were happened. But something tells me that we will never see it again. But who knows? Who knows, mate? That's for story for another day. Thank you for joining me, Elliot. I enjoyed that preview, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on Usyk Dubois too, and how you see it playing out. The questions that we've just asked each other. How do you see that playing out? Should Usyk retire, win or lose? Does Dubois beat Joshua in a rematch? How does that all play out? So let us know in the comments, as always. And as I said at the top, hit the subscribe button on the ESBR Boxing YouTube channel if you're not doing so already. Elliot, it was a pleasure and speak to you again very soon.
Thank you very much, Paul. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.